I need some advice. I'm considering buying a 2001 Mark IV GTI with the VR6. What's your opinion on this engine with it being my first car? It also has installed a supercharged Stage 2 Vortex kit. Is there anything I should watch out while buying a car like this with this particular engine? Is it reliable? All right, Scott, before we talk about the whole package, let's pretend this vehicle did not have a supercharger kit on it. So the biggest thing on the VR6s at that age is probably going to be timing chains. You're going to want to make sure that the chains have been replaced or at least addressed in some way, depending on mileage especially. Now, if this car had 35,000 miles, it might not be as big of an issue. But my guess is on a car that's 14, almost 15 years old, it probably has considerably more miles than that. So you're really going to want to make sure that the chains have been replaced. The other thing that's actually really common on that engine is the runner inside the intake manifold failing. If you crack the throttle really quick from idle to, say, 2,000, 2,500 RPM, if the runner has failed, you'll actually hear it rattling inside the intake manifold. For the most part, you can get away with just replacing that runner and not the whole intake, but I have seen them wear so bad where you need to replace the entire intake manifold. In addition to those things, there's a bunch of other things you're going to want to look at. You're going to want to look at suspension components, you're going to want to look at brakes, you're going to want to look at belts, hoses, you're going to want to make sure the cooling fans work, you're going to want to make sure that the transmission shifts properly, you're going to want to make sure there's very little to no rust depending on the area that you live in, tires. You want to look at the vehicle as a whole package. If you're not sure on how to check all these things out, I really recommend spending the $100 or whatever a dealership or a Volkswagen specialty shop will charge and take it in and get what's called a pre-purchase inspection. And they'll look over the entire car and let you know about any issues that they find. All in all, that VR6 is actually pretty reliable. It's a similar engine to what I have in the Cabrio, but the intake manifold's different and some of the bolt-ons are a little bit different as well. Now, let's put that supercharger on and talk about that. The instant you start modifying a vehicle, the reliability tends to drop. Also, maintenance becomes even more important than it is normally. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with this supercharger kit specifically, but I can tell you you're going to want to make extra sure that the belt is good. You're going to want to make sure there's no noise from the supercharger, and you're going to want to make sure that there's no maintenance like an oil change on the supercharger that needs to occur. So whenever I hear that a vehicle's been modified, my red flag goes up, and I actually take an even closer look at the vehicle than I would if it was plain stock. I want to know who did the work. I want to know what other mods have been done. Odds are if we're running a supercharger, we probably have some kind of suspension upgrades, maybe brake upgrades. I don't really know without seeing the car, it's hard to tell, but you want to take into account the entire vehicle and all the mods that have been made. I'd probably want to see receipts for a lot of these things. Now that may not be fair because if I bought mods for a car, I wouldn't have any receipts for where I had the work done, but I'm a Volkswagen tech, so it might be a little bit different. I would definitely want to know where this work was done. And again, if you're not 100% sure on what you're looking at, I always recommend taking it to either the dealer or again, a Volkswagen specialty shop and getting a pre-purchase inspection.